Before we begin, take a breath, not a rushed breath, a real one, because the book you're about to experience isn't just a classic, it isn't just old wisdom, and it isn't famous by accident. This book has changed more lives, more bank accounts, more destinies, and more mindsets than almost any other book in American history. But here's the part most people don't know: it didn't begin with wealth. It began with a whisper. A whisper from a man standing on the edge of failure to a young writer named Napoleon Hill. A whisper that would become a 20-year journey, 500-plus interviews, and one question. What separates people who succeed from people who never do? Not luck, not intelligence, not education, not circumstances, something deeper. This is where your journey begins. And if at any point something inside you stirs, a memory, a hunger, a possibility, you can subscribe anytime to support this movement. It helps bring these life-changing books to more people who need them. Now let's go back to where the seed was planted. The whisper that changed America in 1908, Napoleon Hill was a broke young reporter trying to make a living. He was invited to interview one of the most powerful men alive, a man whose name shook the entire financial world. Andrew Carnegie. Carnegie didn't give motivational speeches. He didn't waste time on random questions. He spoke directly, sharply, and only when necessary. But during that interview, Carnegie leaned forward with a look that Hill described as thin, curious, and dangerous. Then he asked Hill a question that froze him. "Do you believe anyone, truly anyone, can become rich regardless of their background?" Hill said yes. Carnegie smiled, the kind of smile that says, "Good, I was waiting for that answer." Then he revealed a secret. He told Hill that there is a formula, a psychological law, followed by every person who ever achieved greatness: presidents, inventors, business giants, leaders, visionaries, creators. Carnegie said, "If you discover this secret and share it with the world, you will give people the greatest gift possible, the power to change their destinies." But Carnegie didn't stop there. He offered Hill a test that would take 20 years. A test that would require meeting the greatest minds of the century. A test that would absorb Hill's health, money, and marriage. A test with no promise of reward. Hill later admitted he almost said no. But something inside him, a spark he couldn't explain, made him say yes. And that yes became Think and Grow Rich. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever felt there's something inside you, potential, talent, ideas, but you're not living 10% of what you could be? If that sentence hits you, stay with me. Because this book exposes exactly what blocks people from becoming who they're capable of becoming. And this is only the beginning. The discovery of the secret. Hill interviewed more than 500 of the most successful people of his time. Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, the Wright brothers, Alexander Graham Bell, John D. Rockefeller. These were not random high achievers. These were the giants who built modern America. Hill expected complicated formulas. He expected intelligence, elite education, and privilege. Instead, he found something shocking. They all thought differently. Before wealth came mindset. Before success came belief. Before results came inner direction. They didn't stumble into success, they created it internally first. This became the foundation of the entire book. But part one of our journey focuses on the three pillars Hill believed were the starting point of all achievement. 1. Desire. 2. Faith. 3. Auto-suggestion. By the time you finish this part, you will understand the psychological force that pulls success toward people and pushes it away from others. And if at any moment you feel this awakening something inside you, remember you can always subscribe to Rewired Reader, where we turn books into new beginnings. Now let's go deeper. Chapter 1. The Fire Inside You. Desire. Think about fire for a moment. A fire doesn't begin as flames. It begins as heat, pressure, a spark. The same is true for success. It begins with desire, not wishful thinking. Not "I hope," not "maybe," not "if things go my way." Desire, the kind that keeps you awake, the kind that makes you uncomfortable, the kind that stings, is the birthplace of achievement. Hill gives the story of Edwin C. Barnes, a man who had nothing but a burning desire to work with Thomas Edison. Barnes had no money, no connections, no education, nothing. But what he did have was a decision. I will work with Edison, not for him. With him, he didn't hope, he didn't dream, he decided. He jumped on a freight train, arrived covered in dirt, walked straight into Edison's office and said, "I came to partner with you." Edison later said he saw something in the young man's eyes, a determination that couldn't be faked. Barnes started sweeping floors, but he never stopped believing. Months passed, nothing happened. Years passed, still nothing. And then one day, Edison created a new machine, the Edison dictating machine, and nobody could sell it. Nobody except Barnes. Barnes sold so passionately, so aggressively, so convincingly that the world believed in the machine simply because he believed in it. He became Edison's partner, not because of luck, not because of timing. Because of desire, white-hot, unstoppable desire. Hill believed the starting point of all achievement is desire. So let me ask you, what is your Barnes-level desire? Not something you wish for, something you're willing to fight for. Because nothing in this book will work unless you choose something worth becoming obsessed with. That's where part 1 truly begins. Chapter 2, Faith. The power that creates reality. Desire is the spark. Faith is the engine. Faith, in Hill's definition, has nothing to do with religion. It is the ability to see something before it exists. Every inventor, every entrepreneur, every creator, they all succeeded because they believed in something others could not see. But here's the twist: you can't just have faith, you must train it. And the human mind learns faith the same way a child learns language, through repetition. Hill studied how the mind absorbs belief. He concluded something groundbreaking: your mind will believe whatever you repeat to it, good or bad. If you say, I'm unlucky, I'll never be rich, I'm not talented, I'm average, I'm not good with money, your mind programs itself to prove these statements true. If you say, I control my future, I will build wealth, I deserve success, I attract opportunity, your mind goes to work making that real. Faith isn't magic, it's psychology. Your subconscious listens to your thoughts the way soil listens to seeds. Plant poison, you get poison. Plant possibility, you get growth. This is why some people rise quickly despite having nothing, while others lose everything despite having every advantage. Faith is not luck, faith is not fantasy, faith is not delusion. Faith is a mental habit that shapes reality. And here's a soft invitation: if this message is touching something inside you, remember you can subscribe anytime. This community is built for people hungry for transformation. Now let's continue. Chapter 3, Autosuggestion. The science behind faith. Autosuggestion is the channel between your mind and your destiny. It means this: whatever you repeat becomes what you believe. What you believe becomes how you act. How you act becomes who you become. Hill discovered this years before modern psychology confirmed it. He said, your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a real experience and a repeated thought. Think about that. If you visualize wealth, your brain starts forming pathways to achieve it. If you visualize failure, your brain shuts down pathways that could save you. Your mind listens to you. The question is, what are you telling it? Autosuggestion is not wishful thinking. It is training, mental training. Just like a body becomes strong with reps, your mind becomes strong with repeated beliefs. Every successful person Hill interviewed practiced some form of autosuggestion. Daily affirmations, visualizations, written goals, morning declarations, night routines, repeating a vision. They did it not because it felt good, but because it rewired their mind for success. And here is the emotional truth: you cannot outperform your identity. If you believe you are average, you will live average. If you believe you are capable, you will act capable. If you believe you are meant for more, you will rise. Autosuggestion is the tool that shapes that identity. The moment most people miss. Hill said that successful people share a strange pattern. They reach a breaking point in life, and instead of giving up, they decide to change their entire inner world. They change how they talk to themselves, how they see themselves, how they frame their failures. They stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what does this make possible? This is the psychological shift where success begins. Because wealth doesn't start in a bank account, it starts in a mind. And if this idea is hitting you hard, you can join this movement anytime by subscribing. Rewired Reader exists for people who know they're meant for more. Now let's move into the final section of part 1, the beginning of the plan that transforms mindset into destiny. The birth of the 6-step desire plan. Hill studied the richest people in America and found they had one thing in common: a written, clear, emotional plan for what they wanted. Not a dream, not a wish, a plan. And although Hill describes 6 steps, the deeper meaning is this: when you write a goal and read it daily, your mind begins rearranging your life to achieve it. You notice opportunities, you attract the right people, you build new habits. You let go of old fears, you act with clarity, you stop hesitating, you start moving strategically. It looks like coincidence, but it isn't. It is the mind aligning with desire. So here is the emotional takeaway for part 1. Your mind is always building something. If you don't give it a direction, it will build your fears, your doubts, your limitations. But if you give it a destiny, it will build your future. And that brings us to the end of part 1. But not the end of the journey. Because part 2 goes deeper. into the forces that shape your subconscious, the habits that unlock your genius, and the mental laws that make wealth predictable. And before we move on, here's one last gentle CTA, placed exactly where maximum retention happens. If this message is resonating, if you feel something inside you waking up, if you know you're meant for more, subscribe to Rewired Reader. Support this movement, support yourself. Previously, we uncovered the beating heart behind every great achievement, a burning desire powerful enough to create its own gravity. We saw how the greatest successes in history did not come from luck or talent alone, but from people who decided deep inside themselves, I will not stop until this becomes real. Now, the journey turns deeper. Part 2 takes us into the hidden machinery of the mind, the psychological blueprint Napoleon Hill spent decades decoding. You are about to enter the part of the book where ordinary people transform into extraordinary ones, not by chance, but by understanding how the brain, the subconscious mind, and your environment silently shape your destiny. Let's begin. The mind that creates miracles. Picture someone sitting awake at 3 a.m. Their room is dark. Their thoughts are loud. Their dreams feel far away, but something inside them refuses to die. That small spark, that stubborn, quiet desire, is the same spark that built businesses, wrote books, won championships, and created fortunes from nothing. Hill discovered something powerful. Everything begins in the mind long before it becomes real. A new life isn't built the moment you start working. It's built the moment you start believing. And belief doesn't come from hope, it comes from a system. A mental operating system. So Hill spent 20 years studying the richest people in America to find out how they wired their minds. And the first discovery he made was this: your thoughts are not just thoughts. They are creative forces. If you don't control them, they will control you. This idea became the foundation of the next chapter, one of the most misunderstood but life-changing concepts in the entire book. The power of faith, the state that changes reality. Faith in Hill's world is not religion, not luck, not optimism. Faith is a mental state, a psychological condition that transforms desire into belief and belief into action and action into results. The world sees the results, they call it luck. They call it timing, they call it God's plan. But Hill argued something radical: faith is something you create, not something you wait for. When your mind believes in a goal so deeply that doubt disappears, your brain begins to operate differently. You don't procrastinate the same way. You don't fear rejection the same way. You don't collapse when someone says no. Faith is the emotional fuel that pushes people through fear, through failure, through disbelief. But here is where most people fail. They don't build faith, they wait for it. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel confident, they wait to feel sure, but readiness never comes. Confidence doesn't magically appear. Hill says faith can only grow through repetition, through affirmations. Through seeing your goal in your imagination so many times that the impossible begins to feel familiar. This is why athletes visualize winning before the match. Why entrepreneurs see the business before the profit. Why great creators picture the masterpiece before the first stroke. They are building faith intentionally. And now, at this dramatic moment, a soft reminder for the viewers who are resonating deeply with this journey. If this is teaching you something powerful, support Rewired Reader by subscribing. It keeps this movement alive and helps these lessons reach more people. Now let's continue. The subconscious mind. The factory inside you. Hill believed the subconscious mind was the most underestimated force in human life. It is always awake, always absorbing, always shaping your behavior, even when you don't realize it. Think of your subconscious like the engine beneath a ship. Silent, unseen, but deciding everything. When your subconscious mind believes you're capable, it looks for solutions. When it believes you're not enough, it looks for excuses. And here is the twist: your subconscious does not judge your thoughts. It only obeys them. Tell yourself you're unlucky, it will find proof. Tell yourself you're capable, it will find proof. Tell yourself you'll never be rich, and your mind will sabotage you without you even noticing. This is why affirmations matter. Not because they're positive thinking, but because they program the subconscious with instructions. Whatever you impress on the subconscious will eventually become a physical expression in your life. Thoughts repeated long enough become beliefs. Beliefs repeated long enough become actions. Actions repeated long enough become habits. Habits repeated long enough become fate. This is why Hill said, "You are the master of your fate because you are the master of your mind." Specialized knowledge, the skill that separates wishing from winning. Every dream begins with desire. But desire without skills is fantasy. Hill watched countless dreamers fail not because they lacked motivation, but because they were depending on general knowledge. General knowledge is everywhere. You can Google it. You can read it. You can hear it anywhere. But specialized knowledge is rare. Specialized knowledge is what the world pays for. It's the mechanic who knows the one sound your engine shouldn't make. The marketer who knows the 5 words that double sales. The investor who knows how to read a balance sheet. The doctor who sees something others miss. The coder who solves a problem nobody else can fix. All great fortunes, Hill said, are built on specialized knowledge. People fail because they feel embarrassed to learn late. They think learning belongs to classrooms. They believe education stops after graduation, but wealthy people are constant students. They read, they question, they seek mentors. They experiment, they invest in their mind. This is why Hill didn't say knowledge is power. He said, knowledge is only potential power. It becomes power only when it is organized into action. And this leads us directly into the next transformative discovery, the mastermind, the force no one builds success without. Picture this. Henry Ford didn't build Ford alone. Andrew Carnegie didn't build Carnegie Steel alone. Thomas Edison didn't build innovation alone. Steve Jobs didn't build Apple alone. Oprah didn't build an empire alone. Every great achievement in history was the product of a mastermind, a group of people working together with harmony, trust, and shared purpose. Hill believed the mastermind was not teamwork but something greater, almost electric. When 2 people align perfectly behind a shared goal, their minds don't add, they multiply. Ideas spark faster. Creativity expands. Solutions appear that neither person could see alone. This is why the most successful people surround themselves with brilliance, people who challenge them, people who elevate them, people who see what they cannot see. But here's the painful truth. Most people surround themselves with people who drain them. Friends who distract, family who doubt, colleagues who criticize, partners who fear change, people who love you but don't believe in your dreams at the level you need. Hill says this gently but firmly, your environment must match your ambition. If you want to change your life, you must change who you allow near your mind. And at this moment, one more soft, emotional reminder for the viewer. If this message is hitting deeply, you're exactly the kind of person this movement was built for. Support Rewired Reader, subscribe whenever you're ready. Now let's continue. Imagination, the workshop of the future. Every invention, every achievement, every fortune began as a picture in someone's mind. Before the airplane existed, the Wright brothers imagined it. Before electricity lit a home, Edison imagined it. Before Amazon shipped its first box, Bezos imagined it. Before a song is sung, the artist imagines it. Imagination is the birthplace of reality. Everything that exists now once existed only in someone's thoughts. Hill argued that the mind has 2 forms of imagination. Synthetic imagination, rearranging ideas that already exist. Creative imagination, receiving new ideas from the subconscious. Both matter. Synthetic imagination is how you solve problems. Creative imagination is how you create breakthroughs. But imagination dies in adults because life becomes noisy. Bills, stress, opinions, responsibility. The world trains imagination out of us. But the wealthiest minds protect it. They schedule silence. They practice thinking. They let their mind wander. They allow themselves to dream without shame because imagination is not childish. It is the engine of human progress. And it is the key to turning desire into plans. Which brings us to the next chapter, organized planning, the blueprint of success. Hill found something surprising. People who fail rarely fail because they lack desire. They fail because they don't plan. Success is not random, it is constructed. A builder doesn't show up to land with enthusiasm alone. He shows up with architectural drawings. Likewise, a goal without a plan is just a wish. Organized planning requires clear steps, real deadlines, defined responsibilities, flexibility when obstacles arrive, and persistence when discouragement strikes. But here is the hidden truth. You don't need a perfect plan, you only need a plan that gets you started. Hill noticed that people make a deadly mistake. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect idea, the perfect clarity. Perfect doesn't exist. Movement creates clarity. Action creates opportunity. Trying creates guidance. You plan, you adjust, you grow, you evolve. No great plan started perfectly. It became perfect by starting. And before we move into the final section of this part, here's one more gentle engagement reminder. If these insights are opening your mind or helping you think differently, I'd be grateful if you subscribed. It supports the channel and keeps Rewired Reader alive. Now let's go deeper. Persistence. The golden difference. Hill said something revolutionary. Most people fail not because they're wrong, but because they stop too early. Persistence is the difference between people who almost succeeded and people who actually did. Every success story has a breaking point, a moment when quitting feels easier than continuing, right before the breakthrough. Hill found that persistence is not talent, not personality, not genetics. Persistence is a habit, a daily decision, a mental muscle, a refusal to surrender. If you push long enough, hard enough, smart enough, doors open that weren't visible before. This chapter ends with a question that pulls the viewer into the final part of the journey. If desire fuels you, if faith strengthens you, if imagination guides you, if planning directs you, what final ingredient transforms your mind into a magnet for success? That reveals the next profound concept, and with it, the final unlocking of Napoleon Hill's formula. You know, the deeper we walk into this book, the more one truth becomes impossible to deny. Success isn't an accident, it's a construction, a blueprint, a system built inside the mind long before it ever becomes money in the bank. We've already seen the power of desire, imagination, faith, purpose, and persistence. We've seen how people rise when they align their minds with a mission that refuses to let them sleep peacefully until it's fulfilled. Now we enter the final pieces, the pieces that transform raw ambition into real-world achievement. The pieces that make this book more than a motivational classic, they make it a psychological weapon. Before we begin, take one breath, because the ideas you're about to hear shape the difference between good intentions and unstoppable transformation. And hey, if this journey has been opening something inside you, consider subscribing to The Rewired Reader. This channel is becoming a movement, and your support keeps it alive. Now let's continue. The Sixth Sense, your inner compass. Napoleon Hill believed something bold. When a person fills their mind with purpose, discipline, and imagination, their intuition becomes razor sharp. He called it the sixth sense, not a psychic power, but the ability to sense opportunities, dangers, and decisions with a clarity most people never develop. Think of it like this. Successful people often say, "I had a feeling. I trusted my gut. Something told me this was the right move." That feeling isn't magic. It's your mind processing thousands of details you barely notice consciously. Patterns, experiences, failures, lessons, emotions, instincts, when aligned, they create a powerful inner compass. One that points you toward the right people, the right ideas, and the right timing. This is why some people turn downs into breakthroughs, while others stay stuck in circles. Your intuition grows when you think deeply, you observe quietly, you learn constantly, you plan boldly, and you trust your inner voice. You become someone who doesn't just react to life. You start navigating it with confidence. Now here's something most Americans feel deeply. In a noisy world full of distractions, developing inner clarity becomes a superpower. If that idea resonates with you, you can subscribe anytime. Every new subscriber strengthens this movement of clarity and self-growth. The brain, a magnet for ideas. Hill said the brain is not a storage device. It's a broadcasting and receiving station, a magnet that attracts ideas matching your dominant thoughts. It's why two people can sit in the same room and experience completely different worlds. One sees opportunities, one sees problems, one sees potential, one sees danger, one sees doors, one sees walls. The difference is not the room. It's the mind inside the room. Your thoughts signal to the world what you are ready for. When you think big, life introduces you to big ideas, big people, big chances. When you think small, life sends you smallness, scarcity, and situations that match that mindset. This is why Hill emphasized, what you think is what you attract, what you repeat is what you become, and what you expect is what you receive. This is not mystical, it's psychological. If you think of buying a specific car, suddenly you see it everywhere. It was always there, your awareness just wasn't tuned to it. Your brain tunes itself to what you value most. And when you fill it with purpose, focus, discipline, and belief, your world begins rearranging around that signal. The power of emotion, why feeling creates fortune. Hill says something profound. Emotion is the fuel of the mind. Logic builds the plan, but emotion powers the engine. People don't build empires from logic alone. They build them from passion, pain, hunger, desire, revenge, love, obsession, purpose. The most successful people in America, innovators, founders, creators, they weren't always the smartest, but they were emotionally connected to their mission in a way that made giving up impossible. Emotion makes you persistent. Emotion makes you courageous. Emotion makes you unstoppable. This is why people who feel deeply achieve deeply. And here is a truth that Americans quietly understand. No amount of intelligence can compete with the fire of someone who cares enough to fight for what they want. If this message hits your heart, tap subscribe, join the thousands building emotional intelligence and financial clarity together. The Mastermind Alliance, the people who shape your destiny hill, believed success is never a solo journey. Behind every great achievement in history, behind every invention, every company, every movement, there was a group of people who shared ideas, support, energy, and guidance. He called it the mastermind. It's not a club, not a team, not a committee. It is the merging of minds where two or more people come together with harmony, purpose, and clarity. When people connect like this, Hill said, a third mind is created. Let me explain. When you sit with someone who thinks bigger than you, your thoughts expand, your ideas grow, your energy multiplies. That's the mastermind. And this is not theory, it's visible everywhere. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, Bill Gates and Paul Allen, Oprah and her mentors, every powerful founder, every visionary leader, every iconic creator, they all had a mastermind. People who sharpened their thinking, people who challenged their limits, people who doubled their courage. The wrong people kill dreams. The right people multiply them. And in America, where isolation is rising and connection is shrinking, the mastermind is more important than ever. The ghost of fear, the final enemy. Hill identified 6 fears that destroy potential. Fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of illness, fear of loss, fear of aging, fear of death, but one fear sits at the center of all the others. The fear of poverty. This fear makes people stay in jobs they hate. This fear makes people avoid risks that could change their lives. This fear makes people chase safety instead of success. This fear makes people listen to the opinions of others instead of their own dreams. Fear has ruined more dreams than failure ever did. Fear keeps people average. Fear keeps people silent. Fear keeps people small. And Hill is brutally honest. You can never rise above the level of fear you refuse to confront. Want a better life? Face a better fear. Want a stronger future? Fight the voice in your mind holding you back. Fear is a liar. Fear is a thief. Fear takes everything but gives nothing. And when you finally step past it, even one small step, you enter the world where growth actually begins. How success is built. The full formula. Hill spent 20 years studying 500 millionaires. And after all those interviews, all those patterns, all those stories, he came to one conclusion. Success can be created by ordinary people who master extraordinary behavior. The formula looks like this. Desire, imagination, faith, purpose, planning, persistence, mastermind, discipline, emotional control, courage, decision, learning, adaptation, optimism, and the refusal to quit. This formula is not magic. It is not secret. It is not complicated. It is human. And that is why this book survived nearly 100 years. Because the rules of the human mind never change, only the tools change. The final story, The Man Who Refused to Stop. There's a story Hill loved about a miner during the gold rush. He dug for months, then years. He kept losing money, losing hope, losing belief. One day, tired and frustrated, he sold his equipment to a junk collector and walked away. The junk collector brought an engineer to inspect the mine. They dug 3 feet deeper and found one of the richest gold veins in American history. 3 feet away, 3 feet from the life he prayed for, 3 feet from breakthrough, he had everything except persistence. And that is where fortunes are lost, not in failure but in stopping too soon. That story is a mirror. Not about gold, but about us. How many dreams were 3 feet away? How many ideas were almost ready? How many goals needed just one more attempt? Success doesn't reward the perfect. It rewards the persistent. The final message: you become what you think. You attract what you feel. You create what you imagine. You build what you believe. You achieve what you refuse to quit on. You rise when you surround yourself with the right minds, and you fall when you surrender to the wrong fears. Think and Grow Rich isn't about money, it's about transformation. Identity, mindset, courage. Money is the shadow, the mind is the source. And if this journey has moved you, inspired you, or pushed you forward even one step, subscribe to The Rewired Reader. This movement is growing and you're meant to be part of it, because you're not just learning a book, you're rewriting your life, and this is only the beginning.